You have 24 hours to accept my offer, not because I'm trying to pressure you, but because this challenge only works if you commit to it right now in this moment before doubt and excuses take over. Leave a comment saying accept. If you want to hear about the challenge that could change your life starting tomorrow morning, I'm going to be direct with you. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the perfect moment to start something new. They wait to feel ready, to have more time, to have more money, to have more confidence. They wait and wait and wait, and one day they realize they've run out of time to wait. That's not going to be you, not if you accept what I'm about to propose. Here's my offer. For the next 24 hours, I want you to do one thing you've been avoiding, one thing you've been putting off because you are scared or tired or convinced it won't matter anyway. Just one thing, but you have to commit to it right now, and you have to do it within the next 24 hours. Why 24 hours? Because that's short enough that you can't overthink it, but long enough to actually do something meaningful, because urgency forces action, and action is the only thing that ever changes anything. I learned this lesson the hard way. For years, I had ideas I never acted on, conversations I never started, changes I never made. I told myself I'd do them, eventually when the timing was better, when I felt more prepared, but eventually never comes. The perfect timing never arrives. You never feel completely ready. What changed for me was realizing that the people who accomplish things aren't the ones who wait for perfect conditions. They're the ones who act despite imperfect conditions, who start before they're ready, who commit and then figure it out as they go. I remember a specific moment when I understood this. I was 32 years old, sitting in my apartment looking at a list of things I wanted to do someday. Learn a new language, reconnect with old friends, why 24 hours changes everything, start that project I'd been thinking about for years, take better care of my health. The list had been growing for a decade, but I hadn't actually done anything on it. I kept telling myself I'd get to these things when I had more time, when life calmed down, when I felt more prepared. Then I talked to a man who was 83 years old. He told me about all the things he'd meant to do but never got around to, places he wanted to visit but kept postponing, people he meant to call but never did, skills he wanted to learn but always said he'd start next year. Next year came and went 40 times. He told me, and now I'm out of next year's. Don't make my mistake. Don't wait for perfect conditions that will never arrive. That conversation shook me. I realized I was heading down the same path, building a long list of intentions, but never taking action because the timing never felt quite right. So I made myself a rule. If something matters enough to think about repeatedly, it matters enough to act on within 24 hours of deciding to do it. That rule changed my life, not because it made me perfect at following through, but because it shortened the gap between intention and action. It gave me less time to talk myself out of things, less time for fear and doubt to grow. So here's what I'm challenging you to do in the next 24 hours. If there's someone you need to apologize to, call them today. Not next week. Not when you figured out exactly what to say today. Even if your voice shakes, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you're not sure they'll accept your apology. I know this one is hard. I once waited 3 years to apologize to someone because I was trying to find the perfect words. When I finally made that call, imperfect and awkward as it was, the person told me they'd been hoping to hear from me for all those years. 3 years of distance. That could have been 3 years of connection. All because I waited for perfect words that don't exist. If there's a skill you've wanted to learn, take the first lesson today. Sign up for that class. Watch that tutorial. Practice that first chord on the guitar. Try that new recipe. Don't wait until you can commit to the whole course. Just take the first step today. A friend of mine is 70 years old and just started learning piano. She told me she always wanted to play, but thought she was too old. I wasted 50 years thinking I was too old to start. She said, now I realize I could have been playing for decades if I just begun. If there's a relationship that needs the hidden cost of hesitation and attention, reach out today. Call that old friend you've been meaning to contact. Write that letter to your parents or children. Show up at someone's door who needs to know they matter to you. I let a friendship fade once because I kept thinking I'd reach out next week, next month when I had more time. By the time I finally called, I learned that person had died 2 months earlier. I never got to tell them how much they meant to me. Don't let that happen to you. If there's a fear you've been avoiding, face it today. Have that difficult conversation. Apply for that opportunity you think you're not qualified for. Try that activity that intimidates you. Do the thing that scares you before fear has time to talk you out of it. Fear doesn't diminish with waiting. It grows. Every day you avoid something, the fear gets bigger and the task seems harder. The only way through fear is action. If there's clutter in your life, physical or emotional, start clearing it today. Clean out that closet you've been ignoring for years. Delete those contacts you no longer need. Let go of that grudge you've been carrying. Make space for something new. A woman I know spent 15 years avoiding cleaning out her late husband's belongings. Every time she walked past that closet, she felt guilty and sad. Finally, she gave herself 24 hours to at least begin. She didn't finish in one day, but starting broke the spell. Once I began, she said, it wasn't as painful as I had imagined. The waiting was worse than the doing. If there's a dream you've been dismissing as unrealistic, take the first tiny step toward it today. Research that business idea, write the first paragraph of that book, make one phone call about that opportunity. Prove to yourself that dreams become real through small actions, not big plans. Dreams don't require perfect execution, they require first steps. You can refine and improve as you go, but you can't refine and improve something that doesn't exist yet. The specific action doesn't matter as much as the commitment to action itself. What matters is that you stop waiting and start doing right now, today, within the next 24 hours. I know what you're thinking, but Elaine, I need more time to prepare. I need to think this through. I need to make sure I do it right. No, you don't. You need to start. You need to prove to yourself that you're capable of taking action. When you decide to, not just when you feel ready. Perfect execution can wait. What can't wait is the decision to begin. Let me tell you about Margaret, a woman I met who took this challenge when she was 74 years old. She'd been estranged from her daughter for 12 years over an argument neither of them could even remember clearly anymore. For 12 years, Margaret told herself, she'd reach out eventually. When she figured out the right way to apologize, when enough time had passed, when she felt strong enough to handle possible what boldness really means, rejection. When I challenged her to act within 24 hours, she was terrified. What if my daughter doesn't want to hear from me? She asked, what if I make things worse? What if she hangs up on me? What if you don't try and regret it for the rest of your life? I asked back. Margaret called her daughter that evening. The conversation was awkward and emotional and imperfect. There were long silences. There were tears. There were things that didn't come out quite right, but it happened. And that one phone call made within 24 hours of deciding to make it led to a reconciliation that gave Margaret her daughter back and gave her daughter her mother back. I wasted 12 years because I was waiting to feel brave enough. Margaret told me later, I finally learned that you don't wait for bravery, you act, and bravery follows. The courage comes from doing, not before doing. Margaret and her daughter now have lunch together every week. They've rebuilt a relationship that both of them thought was permanently broken. All because Margaret stopped waiting for perfect conditions and acted within 24 hours. Or think about David, a 60-year-old man who'd wanted to learn piano his entire life but always told himself he was too old, too busy, too untalented. When I challenged him to take action within 24 hours, he found a piano teacher online and booked his first lesson for the next day. That first lesson was terrible, David told me. My fingers wouldn't do what I wanted them to do. I could barely hit the right keys. I felt foolish, like I'd wasted the teacher's time and my own money. But David showed up for the second lesson and the third and the fourth. Each time he got a little better. Each time the piano felt a little less foreign under his fingers. Now 2 years later I can play songs for my grandchildren. David said simple songs, nothing fancy, but they love it and I love it. All because I stopped waiting and started doing. David told me something else that stuck with me. He said, I realized that I wasn't really afraid of being bad at piano. I was afraid of starting something I might fail at. Once I started and accepted that failure was part of learning, it became fun instead of scary. The pattern is always the same. People wait for perfect conditions that never arrive. Then something forces them to act despite imperfect conditions, and they discover that action creates its own momentum, its own confidence, its own opportunities. This 24-hour window is your forcing function. It is your chance to prove to yourself that you are not a person who just thinks about change. You're a person who creates change. But here's the critical part. You have to commit right now before you close this video, before you go do something else, before the door that only opens once doubt has a chance to grow. Not I'll think about it, not maybe I'll do it tomorrow, right now in this moment. Decide what you're going to do in the next 24 hours and commit to it. Say it out loud if that helps. Write it down. Tell someone else what you're committing to. Do whatever you need to do to make this commitment real and immediate. 'Cause here's what I've learned. The moment between deciding and acting is where dreams go to die. The longer that moment stretches, the less likely action becomes. Every hour you wait makes action less likely. Every excuse you entertain makes the next excuse easier to believe. Every day that passes without action makes the pattern of an action stronger. Think about all the things you've meant to do someday. How many of those some days have come and gone without action? How many more some days are you willing to waste? I think about my own life and all the things I delayed unnecessarily, the conversations I postponed that could have happened years earlier. The skills I started learning late when I could have started decades ago. The relationships I let drift when a simple phone call would have maintained them. We act like we have unlimited time, but we don't. Every day is a choice about what we prioritize. And every day we delay something important is a day we'll never get back. 24 hours, one action. That's all I'm asking. Not a perfect action, not a complete transformation, just one step in a direction you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a conversation you've been dreading. Maybe it's a call you've been postponing. Maybe it's trying something new that intimidates you. Maybe it's letting go of something that's been holding you back. Whatever it is, commit to it now and do it within 24 hours. I know this might feel uncomfortable. Good. Growth happens in discomfort. Change requires leaving the safety of the familiar. You might be thinking, what if I fail? What if I try and work out? What if I embarrass myself or waste my time or make things worse? Here's what I know about failure. Every successful person has failed more times than unsuccessful people have tried. The difference isn't that successful people avoid failure, it's that they act despite the possibility of failure. I've failed at more things than most people ever attempt. I've had conversations that went badly. I've tried learning things I turned out to be terrible at. I've reached out to people who didn't respond. I've started projects that never went anywhere. But I've also succeeded at things I never would have experienced if I'd let the fear of failure stop me. And here's the secret. Even the failures taught me something valuable. Even the things that didn't work out made me stronger and wiser. And here's something else I know. Regret from not trying hurts far more than disappointment. From trying and failing, at least when you try and fail, you learn something, you grow stronger, you have no reason to wonder what if. When you don't try at all, you're left with nothing but the permanent ache of wondering what might have been. I talked, turning pressure into momentum, to a man who is 91 years old, and I asked him what he regretted most about his life. He didn't talk about his failures or mistakes. He talked about the things he never tried. I regret the letter I didn't write, he said, the trip I didn't take, the person I didn't tell I loved them, the skill I didn't learn. Not because any of these would have changed the world, but because they would have enriched my life and I let fear steal them from me. Don't let fear steal experiences from you. Don't reach 91 with a list of things you meant to do but never did. You have 24 hours, not 24 days or 24 weeks or 24 years. 24 hours to take one action you've been avoiding. Why does this work? Because it removes your ability to overthink. Because it creates urgency that overrides fear. Because it proves to you that you're capable of more than you think. When you have months to do something, you'll spend months preparing and planning and worrying. When you have 24 hours, you just do it. There's no time for perfect preparation, so you act with whatever preparation you have, and that's usually enough. Most things don't require perfect preparation, they just require beginning. The hardest part of any journey is the first step, not because the first step is objectively difficult, but because taking it requires admitting that you're ready to start, that you're willing to try, that you believe change is possible. Once you take that first step, the second step becomes easier, then the third, then the fourth. Before you know it, you're on a path you never would have started if you'd waited for perfect conditions. I've seen this pattern repeatedly in my own life and in others' lives. The first step feels impossible, then you take it anyway, and suddenly the impossible becomes merely difficult, then difficult becomes manageable, then manageable becomes routine. But none of that happens without the first step, and the first step only happens when you commit to action despite not feeling ready. So here's what happens. Next, right now, before you do anything else, you're going to decide what action you'll take in the next 24 hours. Don't make a list of 10 things, just one thing. The most important thing, the thing that scares you the most or that you've been avoiding the longest or that would make the biggest difference in your life. Then you're going to commit to doing it within 24 hours, not planning it, not preparing for it, but actually doing it. Maybe it's making a phone call, maybe it's having a conversation, maybe it's applying for something, maybe it's starting something new, maybe it's ending something that's been dragging you down. Whatever it is, commit to it right now, make it real, make it urgent, make it impossible to ignore. Tomorrow at this time, you'll either be someone who took action or someone who made excuses. The choice is entirely yours, but you have deciding your future today to make it right now. What's it going to be? Are you going to accept this challenge, or are you going to let another opportunity for change pass you by? I want you to understand something important. This isn't just about the one action you take in the next 24 hours. It's about proving to yourself that you can close the gap between intention and action. Once you prove that you can do this once, you can do it again and again. And that's how lasting change happens. One 24-hour commitment at a time. You might be thinking, this seems too simple. How can one small action in 24 hours really matter? It matters because it breaks the pattern of waiting. It matters because it proves you're capable of action. It matters because small actions compound into big changes over time. Think of it like this. A single degree of change in a plane's direction seems insignificant, but if you maintain that only change for the entire flight, you end up in a completely different destination. That's what this one action represents. A slight change in direction that, if maintained, leads to a completely different life. The people who transform their lives don't do it through massive dramatic changes. They do it through consistent small actions, each one building on the previous one, each one proving that change is possible. Your 24-hour action is the first of those small actions. It's the proof of concept. It's the evidence you need that you're not stuck, that you're not helpless, that you can change your life starting right now. And here's something else. Your action will inspire others. When people see you taking action despite fear, despite uncertainty, despite imperfect conditions, it gives them permission to do the same. Your courage creates courage in others. Your action encourages action in others. The change you create in yourself ripples outward in ways you might never see. So this challenge isn't just for you. It's for everyone who's watching you, waiting to see if change is possible, looking for evidence that courage and action still matter. Show them, show yourself, take the action, make the call, have the conversation, start the thing, do it within 24 hours. The clock is ticking. 24 hours starts final message. The clock is ticking now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel more ready. Now, every minute you spend thinking about whether to accept this challenge is a minute you are not spending on actually doing something that matters. So stop thinking, stop planning, stop preparing. Decide right now what you're going to do in the next 24 hours. Then commit to it completely. Write it down, say it out loud, tell someone, do whatever makes it real and unavoidable. And then within the next 24 hours, do it. No matter how scared you are, no matter how unprepared you feel, no matter what excuses your mind offers you, just do it. Because on the other side of that action is a version of yourself who has proven that waiting is optional, that courage can be summoned, that change begins the moment you decide it does. That person is waiting for you. All you have to do is take one action within 24 hours to meet them. Will you do it? The answer will determine not just the next 24 hours of your life, but potentially the next 24 years. Choose wisely, choose bravely, choose action. Share this with someone who needs a push to stop waiting and start doing. What's the one thing you're going to do in the next 24 hours? Write it in the comments. Making it public increases your commitment and might inspire someone else to take their own